Welcome to the 289th episode of Tennis Podcast. It's 2025. It's sunny as I record this. I'm feeling good. Got a good night's sleep. Low stress today. Dr. Buster, how are you going to ruin this day for me?
Well, I showed up to the recording, so I think that's all I had to do to put a big old
I can feel my blood pressure rising.
my...
I can feel sweat starting to percolate on my skin out of just frustration. Percolate. It's I can feel my nipples tightening up as my body's just preparing.
It might be sunny where you are, but brother, that's not the case for everyone who's listening to this podcast right now.
Well, hell, bub, am I supposed to do an intro for each specific weather scenario in the entire world, or can I do one that's just specific to me? Is that okay?
Well, we could just pull a Wayne, which is my dad's name, and just no matter what's going on in your life of importance, he just wants to talk about how the weather's been where you're at.
Well, by God, that's old reliable, right? You don't know what else. You got no other common ground with a person? Go to the weather. We can all relate to the weather, especially the Democrats who control the weather and target red states during an election.
Okay, sure.
I don't know why I went there. All right. Let's not talk about that. I want to give a special shout out to our Tennis Pod Plus members who are listening to us now early and ad-free. Thank you for your support. Buster, you're here.
I'm here.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
Oh no, that's why I asked.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Now, Nick, if I were
You're gonna drag it out, aren't you?
Oh yeah, that's my style, baby. Even though everybody listening already knows what the topic's going to be, you don't.
Yes.
Now, if I were to open up the Tennis Pod and say, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast. We are a show where, live in front of you, on stage, we reveal top 10 lists one at a time, and you, as the viewer at home, can guess along and see if you can guess a top 10 list of random facts and trivia better than our sidekick host of the day.
If you were to say that, I'd call you the worst second-rate game show host of all time. But are we doing something game show related, bub?
I may be the worst second-rate game show host of all time, but God damn am I good at giving a clue about game shows. That's exactly what we're talking about today. We are going to talk about the top 11 tennis longest-running American game shows in history.
Wow. Can you take off your American goggles for even one episode?
Okay. Well, you know, I thought about international lists, and I'll be honest, I didn't know a damn title
because those American goggles I mentioned.
Yep.
Fuck.
Sorry.
Game shows. All right.
Game shows. So these are the top 11 American game shows, and they are ranked according to the total number of episodes, not necessarily the years in which they span first airing to last or the current date, which is how many episodes did they cram down viewers' eyeballs.
That's important because there's some game shows throughout history that were like every day of the week for however many years.
I would say most of these occurred every weekday or weeknight.
Now, you're probably going to get to this, although you've surprised me with your lack of preparation in the past. So
sure,
let's keep that in mind. But is there a definition for a game show? Because in my mind, I'm thinking like Survivor. Is that a reality show or a game show or both? So what do you have to say about that?
You know, I was going to ask you to tell the folks at home what you think a game show is. I don't think Survivor, I mean, that's more of a...
It's an argument, right?
Yeah.
I think you're talking about like the classic, like old... I mean, I know some of them are still on today, but kind of old retro style. There's a host standing on a stage with a skinny microphone with a live studio audience.
Skinny, long microphone.
Is every one of these in front of a studio audience?
Yes. They're all on stage like that, live with an audience. There is a microphone. It may be skinnier than the thinnest pencil you've ever seen for whatever,
whatever reason. Exactly.
Looking like some futuristic Gandalf's wand. But yeah.
I'd love to know the practical reason for that striking microphone.
You bring up an interesting point. There's a Venn diagram overlap between reality TV and game shows. And I think Survivor is somewhere in that mix.
Yep. But you asked what a game show is, and we'll talk about American game shows in particular, which are a show featuring a host and then participants, usually not actors or actresses, but, you know, everyday people competing either with each other or with the audience or with the host to win prizes while an audience watches.
And the big old gluey cluey is that some of these shows do feature celebrities.
Yes.
Now, Nick, are you a big game show viewer? Would you say that you watch a lot of game shows, or did you watch more growing up? What's your experience and your exposure?
I'm trying to think of the last time I actually watched a game show, like beyond just like a 2-minute clip or something. And
You're more of a daytime soap opera TV guy,
exactly.
General Hospital, All My Children.
Especially Spanish language soap operas.
Telenovelas.
Subtitles. Yeah. No, I'm not into game shows today. I definitely watched my fair share as a kid. You know, Wheel of Fortune. I'm sure some of these are spoilers for the list ahead, but Wheel of Fortune, and would you consider Whose Line Is It Anyway a game show? Kind of, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe
It's very different. I don't know if it would have cracked the top 11. So just for reference, 11th place has 2,000 episodes. And first place has 9,900 episodes.
It's almost as many as Tennis Podcast.
That's almost, yeah.
Okay. What about you? What's your game show experience?
I totally forget as an adult that game shows even exist unless I'm at like a tire shop and I'm waiting for my car to be done and I see the daytime TV on, or if somebody who's probably double my age happens to turn a game show on at the gym and I just happen to like peripherally see it on the TV on mute. But growing up, my parents, I think their only hobby was watching television, so I was exposed to a lot of evening game shows, including Wheel of Fortune. Gosh, when I think about my childhood and spending time with my parents, I think about sitting in front of the TV and watching Pat Sajak and Vanna White.
Things have changed so much because now your daytime game shows on regular TV, cable, or broadcast, like your audience for that is got to be 90% or higher, like senior citizens, right?
Sure.
Staying at home. Whereas I lied because I remember now that I have watched some streaming game shows. I watched The Floor is Lava with my kids on Netflix, and there's also like the baking game shows that are big. I've seen a few of those.
Sure.
So like those streamer game shows, but they're not what most people think of as a game show, where we talk about the host with the skinny mic in front of a live audience. Those ones I just mentioned are not in front of a live audience, but I'd still consider they're like a competition show. So they've evolved, but like that old style, classic style is still there for the oldies out there, for the oldie fogies. And then the streamer versions, which are more modernized, are there as well for kind of our age demographic.
And as the population progresses and streaming becomes a norm and cable TV takes one hit after another with each passing year, I wonder if game shows in this type of format on live TV will even exist at some point in the future, or if it'll all move to streaming, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, let's open up the guessing, bub. Now, I would say you've heard about half of these, and the other half you probably have not, because some of them went off the air in like the 60s or 70s.
Okay.
But even prior to that, they got in thousands of episodes.
Do you know what the first game show was in America?
I don't, actually.
Let's look it up.
The very first one I bet it's one of these, because one of these game shows started as a radio broadcast exclusively because TV wasn't around yet.
Okay, well, I'll guess this. According to Wikipedia, the first game show in the 1930s started on radio and television, and that is the game show Spelling Bee.
No, that did not crack the list. Okay, Spelling Bee. Well, I think we could all assume how that game is played.
Okay, Truth or Consequences was the first game show to air on commercially licensed television.
Truth or Consequences did crack the top 11. Where do you guess it came in?
Okay, so I'm not going to look at how many episodes, but I am going to look at the years, which is 1940 to 1988 is what I'm saying then, if we include radio. So I'll say this comes in around number 6.
Okay, half of 6 is 3. Add that, and you get...
I knew it.
9. Truth or Consequences?
Half of 6 is 3, and then you went up to 9? I missed how you got to 9.
Well, no, we can't all be blessed in math skill.
Okay, just stop. Keep going.
Truth or Consequences comes in at 4,300 episodes. This was an American game show originally hosted on NBC Radio by Ralph Edwards, listener of the show and tennis patron. Tennis patron. And later, when it moved to television, it had 6 different hosts, including Bob Barker. who
I
would
didn't know that.
later go on to host The Price is Right. And he
And
hosted
then
from
later go on to die.
1956, as we all will. He hosted from the 1956 to 1975. The premise of the show was to mix an original quiz element of game shows with wacky stunts. Now, of the game shows I wasn't familiar with, I actually watched like 10 to 15 minutes of each of these shows, and I can tell you that to call Truth or Consequences a quiz show is total bullshit. The
Why?
whole point is to kind of like give people an impossible quiz question. They have to answer it in 2 seconds. They get 2 seconds. If they don't answer it in time, Beulah the buzzer goes
Oh,
off, and then the person has to do a awkward or weird or outlandish like prank or stunt that's embarrassing in front of the live audience. And I can tell you that they only get through 2 or 3 people in a 30-minute episode, including commercials. And a lot of it is just the host standing up there like BSing and making semi-dirty jokes with each contestant. We like learn all about them, where they're from, funny things about them. Then the actual quiz question takes like 20 seconds, which nobody ever gets right. And then they have to do weird stuff.
it's kind of like how you never get a list right on this show. But do you
That's right.
know what did you see as a consequence for someone that had to do something embarrassing?
This middle-aged lady there was a big wooden board of a male adult, and she had all the body parts, and she had to like blindfold, walk up, and put them all on the human body. And of course, the
Oh,
leg ends up
baby.
like around the penis, and so the guy's making jokes about this guy is well endowed or whatever.
God.
And anytime that they would make people do something like extra silly, the host would always look at the camera, and one of the catchphrases of the show was, "Aren't we devils?"
I hate it. I mean, it is true, but just a weird. What year was that? Do you know? Like, was this black and white?
Yeah, so I mean, started in 1940. And if you think that corporate America and commercials are taking over shows, especially daytime TV, is anything new, folks, you got another thing coming,
Mhm.
because this was like the 40s or 50s, and there's so many promos and ads, and like the whole front of the stage was a giant like advertisement for a washing machine on this particular episode. So
You ever think about like this started in the 40s, right? And 40 years before that, nobody had even heard of a fucking TV. You know what I mean?
right.
Like just that quick evolution from we're sitting in the streets, like our entertainment is reading a single print book that someone hand wrote. And then you go from that, I'm exaggerating a little, of course, but you go from that to everyone has a TV in their home in a really short amount of time. And now there's these game shows with commercials. And by God, I got to buy that washing machine.
Sure. Well, unless we forget that commercials weren't a new thing with television. I mean, they were happening on radio
Radio.
programs, and there was ad revenue coming in those. So it's always been a part of our American society.
How young was, what years did you say Bob Barker hosted?
Started in 56. So I don't know
I
how
wonder
old
how
he
old he
was, but
was. I'm going to look.
my God, the fact that he only retired from The Price is Right in like 2007 or something. We'll get to that, but man, he had a run on
In
television.
56, he would have been 33.
Okay.
And I'm seeing now he died in 2023 at age 99.
99. My
The price
God.
was wrong on making it to 100, I guess.
Well, you were always told on The Price is Right not to overbid, so he certainly didn't do that.
Well, we're talking about it. We might as well go to Price is Right. I'm going to guess that's pretty high. I mean, I could see it being number one, but I'm going to guess it's number two.
Now, what a perfect segue, because my last note on Truth or Consequences is Bob Barker traditionally ended each episode with the phrase, "I hope all of your consequences are happy ones." In one 1994 episode of The Price is Right, Bob started to deliver that closing, but caught his mistake during the filming of a Price is Right episode and covered it by saying, "I hope all your prices are right."
So he like went into autopilot and started to say his old catchphrase from almost 20
Yeah.
years before, though.
He was
I mean,
19 years removed, and he started to close it out like Truth or Consequences, but he was on The Price is Right. I guess instead, Bob's familiar closing phrase for The Price is Right at the time in 1994 was, "Have your pets spayed or neutered."
yes, which, hey, I support it. I wonder,
Support it.
there's no way to know this, but I wonder what influence that had on like how many
I-
people actually got their pets spayed or neutered because they heard it for so many years from Bob Barker.
right. All right. Price is Right. Now, we're about to find out whether your godforsaken guess is right. What number this is on the top 10 list.
Number two.
My hatred for you and your ability to guess top 10 lists has grown once more.
Number 2, isn't it?
Yes.
God damn it!
Coming in with just over 9,000 episodes.
Sex is great and all, but have you ever correctly guessed an item on Buster's list and shut his fucking ass up? God, it's so satisfying.
I have yet to correctly guess anything on this fucking podcast, so I don't know what that's like. I don't know what sex is like either, but I hope to know someday soon.
Yeah, same.
The Price is Right is a game show where contestants compete by guessing the prices of various merchandise to win cash and prizes. Contestants are always selected from the studio audience, and the announcer calls down those people by using the show's famous catchphrase, "Come on down."
So that's where that started, I guess, on that show, because that's kind of like a game show staple now.
Right.
And every time someone's making fun of game shows or doing a game show sketch, they always say that.
Yep. The program aired in September 1972 on CBS. Bob Barker was the series' longest-running host, even though there were a handful of hosts before Bob took over, and he retired in 2007 when Drew Carey took over, and Drew Carey has been the host ever since.
What a gig. What a gig. I mean, I'm guessing you work at the most a few days a week, maybe even once a week, maybe even less than that. And there's probably an off season and an on season, so you probably go months without filming at times. Yeah. And it's low pressure because like you kind of get into a groove. There's no big surprises. You're in control. You're paid well. You get to be famous, but not, you don't have to go to movie sets all the time. Like it just seems like an ideal gig.
You just have to have a gift of gab. You got to be able to be up there, and you got to speak well. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to turn down a lot of game show offers because I can't. I'm dedicated to this podcast, but maybe in another life.
We totally believe that you would have the onstage personality to host a game show. There's not a single listener of this podcast that would doubt that claim.
Thank you.
At the start of the show for Price is Right, 4 contestants are called from the audience by the announcer to take a spot in the front row behind bidding lecterns, which show their bids as they call them out. This area is known as Contestants' Row. So of those 4 contestants, whoever in a bidding round makes a bid for the price being closest without going over, then gets selected to come up and continue to come on down to the main stage, and then participates in one of a variety of other price guessing games.
Buster, when's the last time you came on down?
It's been a while. Been a goddamn while.
I think you know this. Maybe I haven't told you. I don't remember. But my sister was on The Price is Right.
Oh, really?
Yes. This is early 2000s, so like 20 years ago. It was a Bob Barker episode. She was on it.
Did she?
She won a basketball, one of those standing basketball hoops that go in the driveway, you know?
No shit. Really?
Yeah.
So she actually had that, and like her kids were able to use it?
She was like 18 at the time, so long time before her kids. But yes.
So was that your parents' house?
I don't know what happened to it. I really don't know what happened to it. I don't know if she sold it or something, but I don't think I ever saw it. But
she never got it home because it was too big for the checked luggage.
But the biggest thing about that episode is there was another woman on the same episode, and she spun the wheel so hard that she fell over. And then she did it again in the same episode. She spun and fell over again in the same episode.
Do you remember why people spin the wheel?
No.
That's usually towards the end of the show, right?
I don't remember why. I barely watched The Price. I've watched like that episode with my sister, and that's probably the only episode I've ever watched.
So, in case you were curious, Stanford University has ran 2 different studies on the guessing behavior of The Price is Right. And they noted that rarely do people attempt to optimize their bidding strategies, but instead, accuracy just tended to improve the longer they stayed in contestants' row. Which I guess that makes sense. You know, practice makes perfect.
Sure.
They also
I don't know why we're wasting time with that study, but
some people need to know the biggest questions in life, and for some people, that's the bidding behavior of people who are on The Price is Right.
You know, from time to time on this podcast over the years, we bring up these studies from universities. There's this one. I know I brought up one recently about the better wrapped a gift is, the higher expectations a person has. I know, obviously, the licking machine was done by Purdue University years ago.
My personal
to find out
favorite.
how many licks it gets. They had a machine to find out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. And every time I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? There has to be something more worthwhile, you know?
Yeah.
They're funding this.
Right. And another bit of extra trivia is that throughout the years, as the show has gone on, contestants on average have gotten worse and worse at accurately guessing the prices. And one of their hypotheses is that as our purchases move online and people get more busy in life, they pay less and less attention to the prices. Also, when you're able to just rack up credit card debt, you don't have to responsibly know the price of anything anymore. People aren't as attuned to what things cost as much as they were back in like 1970.
I could see that. Although I could also see an argument for like, well, I don't know. What the fuck do I know? They did a study. They know better than I do.
They did the study. So there you go. The price is right.
The price is wrong, bitch. It is too bad that Bob
That's
Barker
from Happy Gilmore, right?
Yeah, he didn't survive long enough to be in Happy Gilmore 2, which they're either filming now or soon. Or maybe they have filmed it by now. I don't know. It's coming out soon. But I wonder if it was me and if I had a say in the making of this movie, I'd say, let's get Drew Carey on here. He's the new host of Prices, right? We can carry on that legacy. So maybe they'll do that.
The Tinnish Podcast has more than 300 episodes now, and, well, that's a lot. Too many, in fact. Stephen Clark here with a pro tip to make things easier for you. Instead of endlessly scrolling through the Tinnish Podcast feed on your podcast app trying to find one that stands out enough for your next listen, instead, open up your browser and go to tinnishpod.com/episodes. There you'll find the Tinnish Podcast episode guide, which breaks down all 300 episodes by topic. Looking for an episode covering a top 10 list in history? Or maybe a top 10 list in music or true crime or animals? There are dozens of topics to choose from, and when you select one, you'll get a filtered list of episodes under that topic. Or, if you're less picky about the topic and the sidekick host is a little more important to you, you can filter episodes by sidekick host. So say, I don't know, just a random example here off the top of my head, but let's say you're craving more Stephen Clark episodes. Just tap my name, and you'll see all of the episodes I've been on. It's easy to use, will save you a bunch of time finding the next episode for you. Try it out now at tinnishpod.com/episodes or just tap the link in the show notes.
So why don't you go ahead and gander us another guess, Mr. Big Shot?
Tell you what, I'll make you a deal.
Okay.
Or should I say deal or no deal?
Deal or no deal? Not on the list.
Okay, that's fair. I'm trying to stay away from the top few. How about Family Feud?
Family Feud, hosted by none other than Steve Harvey.
Listener of the show.
It is on the top 11. Where would you guess it ranks?
I'll put it at 6. Did I get it? Tell me I got it.
You got it. I just don't.
Lester, have I been ordained by God or something? Maybe I need to rethink everything.
You know, your whole life, if you ever wondered, why wasn't I proficient at my job or my relationships, that's because that was not your God-given destiny. Your destiny has always been to guess top 10 lists. My God, coming in at number 6.
Family Feud number 6.
The man is unbeaten. If there was an American game show where you had to guess top 10 lists from scratch, I mean, shit, you could be one of their all-time prize winners. Family Feud number 6 coming in at 5,500 episodes. The show was created by Mark Goodson. 2 different families compete on each episode to name the most popular answers to survey questions in order to win cash and prizes. Now, this is not one I've ever seen a full episode of, but it is one that I find myself unable to look away from if I happen to see it, you know, like in a restaurant or at the gym or at a auto body shop, because I mean, Steve Harvey's kind of likable and he's funny, and a lot of the survey prompts and the responses are funny.
Okay.
The show's had 3 separate runs, the first of which started in 1976. And it's had various hosts over the years, but Steve Harvey took over in 2010 until now. Now, here's something interesting about the show. Within a year of its debut, the original version became the #1 game show in daytime television. It was highly rated, and it was the most watched. However, between 1976 and 2010, it slowly fell through the rankings. People didn't enjoy it as much. It wasn't as popular until Steve Harvey took over in 2010, and then suddenly it shot back up and has stayed in the top 3 most popular syndicated TV shows in America ever since. And in an interview about this, since then, Steve Harvey said, well, if someone has an answer that's so ridiculous, I know people at home behind the camera had to be going, what the hell did they just say? And I react accordingly. And I think Steve Harvey's personality and his ability to like react to funny guesses is what has, it's half the show, in my opinion.
Buster, are you in love with Steve Harvey?
Yes. I wish he would marry me and have 10 of my babies.
Okay.
So if you're curious how this works...
Hang on. Is he right behind the camera holding a gun to you right now?
He's not behind the camera. He's behind something. And I hope it's me.
Goddamn. All right.
A host asks a survey question that was previously posed to a group of 100 random American individuals, such as, what's something you expect to see on the street at Christmas time? And
trash.
A certain number of answers are concealed on the board, ranked by the popularity of the survey's responses. Each family, back and forth, gets a chance to guess what was on the survey. And it's one of the reasons why, if seeing the show every now and then is why I say survey says sometimes, because that's a classic tagline from Family Feud.
Well, it seems like a good game show for people that enjoy tennis podcasts, because there's a little bit of crossover there. Like you're guessing a ranking.
Sure, but Steve Harvey's likable.
Oh, that's true.
Unlike, yeah.
Well, that depends on who you ask. Do you think any families have been torn apart because of their performance on Family Feud?
Like, Jessica, you dumbass, why would you ever say that? You cost us the entire show. We were so close to winning.
I'm sure there's been some awkward fights in the car after the show.
Absolutely. Like, what the hell were you thinking? Well, and it's funny because a lot of the survey prompts intentionally could have racy or like semi-sexual answers in the list.
Baby.
And so it's funny when people have like, perverted answers or whatever, because it's in front of their family. And of course, all of America. And, you just catch family members in funny setups. So
when you say all of America, you mean like maybe 1 million old ladies across America.
Yeah, 5% of the population over the age of 55 is what I should have said.
Of course, there was a time where everyone watched everything on TV, right? But we're not in that time right now.
Now, Steve Harvey could be argued a needy little diva after hearing this tidbit about Family Feud. Production of the show was shifted from Universal Studios Orlando to Steve Harvey's hometown of Atlanta in 2011. Later, it moved to LA to accommodate Steve Harvey's new schedule as he had his own talk show, Steve. However, in August of 2020, after ramifications from the COVID pandemic, the show returned back to Atlanta. However, 1 year later, they moved the series to Fayetteville, Georgia, closer to Steve Harvey's home. And then, earlier this year in 2024, production of the show moved back to Atlanta in Tyler Perry Studios on the site of the historic Fort McPherson. So, Steve Harvey gets what Steve Harvey wants when it comes to filming the Family Feud.
Well, look, on one hand, I get it, diva, like making all these people have to move probably and relocate to film the show with you. On the other hand, he is the show. Like,
right.
I don't know.
No,
like,
I get it.
If you don't want to accommodate him, then tell him no. But if you want the ratings and all that, then I don't know. I see both sides of it.
Yeah, I'm more making a joke. I mean, I think Steve Harvey makes the show, and without him...
I didn't know how you knew how to make jokes.
Mm.
You've never said anything funny, so I wasn't sure if you knew even what a joke was.
Well, a blind squirrel finds a nut eventually.
Can you tell Steve Harvey to get around from behind you and sit in your chair instead, and I can do the show with him?
Well, he would be more likable, charismatic, and funnier. I guarantee it.
Side note, we don't have to spend time talking about this, but if your talk show is called Steve, someone needs to be fired. All right, Family Feud. I think Family Feud's a pretty good show. I'm with you. Like, if I have to sit down and watch a game show, Family Feud would probably be near the top of my list.
Yeah, it's a likable, fun show.
The top would be what I'm guessing is number one, but we'll get to that. Let me think for a second.
We're going to need way more than a second if you need to do some thinking.
Jeopardy.
I'll be curious to think what you guessed as number one, because you just stumbled upon the number one. That would be Jeopardy.
Okay. I knew it.
Jeopardy has 9,900 episodes to date. It was created by Merv Griffin, and it first aired in March of 1964. The show is a quiz competition that reverses the traditional question and answer format. Rather than being given questions, contestants are instead given general knowledge clues in the form of answers, and they must identify the person, place, thing, or idea that clue describes and phrase that response in the form of a question. Which, as a kid, I was so fucking confused about what was going on.
I was also like, why? Why the fuck do we have to have that stupid rule? Is it only to trip people up, to make them sometimes forget to do it and they lose points? Like, is there any reason other than that?
So that Alex Trebek could be like, got your ass, bitch. That's what you get.
Look, I'm sorry, Jeopardy fans out there. It's a fucking stupid rule, and it alone is enough to make me not watch.
So it's been through several runs. It's been canceled a couple of times, but as soon as Alex Trebek came on the show in 1984, which he hosted all the way through 2021 after 36 years in the role, that's the mainstay format and, airing of Jeopardy that most people are probably familiar with.
Buster, I don't know why you're not making me guess in the form of a question. What is Jeopardy at number one?
That's right.
Because apparently that's a logical thing to do.
And as many people probably know, as you pick out the questions you're going to take from, there's different amounts of money on the board. A higher dollar amount as you go further down the board indicates it's going to be a more difficult question across various categories. And I remember that for the few handful of times that I've actually seen Jeopardy, I was excited to know the answer. It's not very often, but sometimes I'm like, shit, I know that question.
Well, I don't believe that that's actually happened. I think you're just saying that.
Following the declining health of Alex Trebek, a variety of guest hosts completed the next season, beginning with record-holding former contestant Ken Jennings, each hosting for a week or so before passing the torch. But eventually, Ken Jennings became the permanent host, which was supposed to be shared with Mayim Bialik, which I think she's most popular from Big Bang Theory. And they were supposed to be co-hosts. However, she withdrew from the role in 2023 because of Hollywood labor disputes. So she wanted to stick it to the fucking man. And because of that, Ken Jennings has been the permanent host of Jeopardy ever since. Now, this is wild. Jeopardy has won a record 45 Emmy Awards for Best Game Show Host and Best Overall Game Show. And they also, I don't get this one, they won the Peabody Award in the early 2000s. The Peabody Award is supposed to recognize excellence in media, including TV, radio, online media. The award goes to media that captures stories that are enlightening, powerful, and invigorating. I'm sorry, Jeopardy fans, I don't get it when you are up against like world-changing documentaries.
Well, maybe those are in a different category.
No, this is it. There's one Peabody Award a year, and Jeopardy got it.
Well, maybe instead of the Peabody Award, those documentaries can get the Piss Face Award.
Or Pee in My Butt Award, which I'm a huge fan of.
All right. I regret coming down this road. I seem to recall some, like, this was very on my periphery. I just like see headlines at times, so I could be misremembering or something, but I feel like there was a lot of discourse when Jennings became the full-time host. Like, I think he maybe wasn't as popular or likable as they thought.
A lot of people had big, strong opinions about which of those celebrity hosts who all took their turn, which person they wanted to be in the permanent seat.
Yeah.
But Ken Jennings is the man. So the setup of Jeopardy is the winner across 3 contestants of every episode gets to continue and feature on the next episode. Ken Jennings went on a 2.5 million 74 episode reign before someone toppled him. I mean,
I think you have to give him the show.
Impressive.
At that point, the prize is just you become the host of the show. Like, if someone were to do that again now, that person gets to take the show from Jennings, I think. Like, that's an incredible feat.
He gets to punch Alex Trebek, the current host, in the face until Alex can no longer stand up, and then Alex gets to pack up his bags and call it a day.
He already did. You're thinking of Ken Jennings.
Right, but when Ken Jennings takes over the helm, They have to do it in a physically violent format on live TV.
I got you.
While Ken Jennings quizzes him, he's punching Alex Trebek until he stays on the floor, and then America's like, well, what's done is done.
That's the rules. Yeah.
That's the rules.
That's the rules, bub. So my sister was on The Price is Right. I had a college professor on Jeopardy.
God damn.
And he brought the tape to class one day and showed it to us, and he did not win. He did well, but he did not win.
He didn't win. The professor's like openly crying in front of everybody because of how bad he did.
So if you haven't caught on by now, listener, my whole life is just about knowing people more interesting than me. Because I haven't actually done anything. I just know people that have done things.
And one of Nick's favorite hobbies is name dropping people so he can feel important from time to time.
Yeah, name dropping my economics professor from the community college I went to, 12 years ago or whatever.
Well, it's a reach of desperation, but I wasn't going to say anything.
So you wanted to know what I thought number one was. Do you want to know?
Sure.
I thought number one was Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune.
Which I will now guess is number 3.
And he does it again, folks. Number 3, Wheel of Fortune coming in with over 8,000 episodes.
I knew it.
Now,
I said earlier, if I was forced to sit and watch a game show, Family Feud would be near the top. I think Wheel of Fortune would be the top.
Wheel of Fortune's good. Now, I mentioned in the opening that I have a strong connection to this show in my childhood, although I've not watched it in 20 years. But many evenings we sat around and watched Wheel of Fortune. And it blows my freaking mind that Pat Sajak and Vanna White were still hosting that thing until last year. I mean, Vanna White is still on there. And she's 67 now. She's only 3 days older than my mama. Fun fact.
Cool.
But
also,
Ryan,
if you're Vanna White, why the fuck would you stop?
Sure.
I mean, 67 isn't that. I mean, I know Pat Sajak's much older, but Vanna White is 67. That's not that old, and all you gotta do is walk across the fucking stage and like.
I mean, still the continuity, though.
Yeah,
it's just
for sure.
It's
impressive for any show, for any actor to be on any show for that long. I agree.
Yeah, and
she's not an actor, but you know what I mean.
They both have been on there since 1983.
Yeah, it's nuts.
She was 25. Just did the math.
Pat Sajak, more like Pat Ballsack, am I right? Pat.
I mean, you get that old, you got to be nervous it's falling out the bottom of your pant leg.
Yeah.
So I thought in the preparation for this episode that Pat Sajak was still the host, and so was Vanna White. Vanna White is still there. However, Ryan Seacrest replaced Pat Sajak in September of 2024.
Yes, forgot that fucking guy.
Nuts.
Dude, that fucking guy has been on everything.
So, if you're not familiar, listener, Wheel of Fortune was created by Merv Griffin. It aired in 1975. That's the second show Merv Griffin was credited for starting.
Plus, not to mention the Merv Griffin Show, which
always makes you think of Seinfeld.
Same.
Contestants solve word puzzles like those found in the take-home game Hangman to win cash and prizes determined by spinning a giant carnival wheel. In each round, 3 players compete to be the first to guess the answer to a word puzzle. At the start of each round, the host, Pat Sajak, revealed the category, fuck you, Ryan Seacrest, and general puzzles must be read exactly, except for crossword puzzles, which were added in 2016. The titular Wheel of Fortune is a roulette-style wheel with 24 wedges. Each wedge is labeled with dollar amounts ranging from $500 to $900, and there are bigger slices in each round going all the way up to $5,000. It also has 2 bankrupt wedges and 1 lose-a-turn wedge. And
would you stop calling them wedges and slices? Fuck.
It's what the notes say.
Nobody calls them that. Buster, you said it had 24 wedges?
Yeah.
When's the last time you had 24 wedgies in one day?
24 wedgies?
Yeah.
Never. The sound of the contestant grabbing the wheel and slinging it and spinning it, the sound of the ticker as the wheel spun, oh, that's like instant childhood nostalgia.
Yeah, it is.
And the pew, bump, 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 when they hit the bankrupt or the lose a turn.
And Pat Sajak saying, "You fucking idiot," when he would scream that and like his blood vessels would start going in his face and he'd spittle all over the place. That's also nostalgic.
Say, you stupid son of a
When he
bitch.
take out a machete and hold it to their throat and say, "Get that one. Get bankrupt again, fucking bitch. Do it again."
Oh,
Pat Sajak. Yeah, he was a great
was.
host.
It's sad they had to cut most of his antics to make it on TV, but what a guy.
Yeah. The next guess I have written down here is, who wants to be a millionaire?
Who wants to be a millionaire? What? Big shot? Do you want to be a millionaire and guess where it falls on the list?
This one has to be less because I feel like it's newer relative to these other ones. I'm going to put it at 10.
Pretty close. Number 11. Who wants to be a millionaire?
Knew it.
Coming in with 2,000 episodes. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is a game show adapted for the United States by Michael Davies, but that was originally broadcasted in England. It features a quiz competition with contestants The show features a quiz competition with contestants attempting to win a top prize of $1 million by answering.
With inflation, that's only worth like $20 these days. Am I right, everybody?
It's going to be Who Wants to Be a 2 Millionaire soon.
Mm-hmm.
They answer a series of multiple choice questions, usually of increasing difficulty. So it premiered in 1999. They've had multiple runs. Part of the series that I remember as a child was hosted by Regis Philbin. And I can't imagine
he was kind of the
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire without him and his personality. But I found out that currently Jimmy Kimmel hosts the revamped iteration of the show.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd watch that, I think.
Sure. Now, if contestants run into trouble as they go up the chain and get ever-increasing, more difficult trivia questions, they can lean on certain lifelines. Now, these lifelines, they vary in number and format across the various iterations of the show. However, some of them include 50-50. So 2 incorrect answers would be deleted, so you'd have to 50-50 shot of getting the answer right. Ask the audience. Everyone in the audience would have a 4-button keypad to register the answer they believe is correct. How many trolls do you think are in the audience like, I'll fucking trip them up and put D even though I know the answer is A?
Can you imagine? Like, if you did that to someone that's in the contestant on the show, that contestant now has you on their kill list.
Phone a friend. The contestant calls a prearranged friend and is given 30 seconds to discuss the questions with that person. However, in 2010, this lifeline was dropped due to an increasing number of people who were Googling answers while they were on the phone.
I don't know how you combat that, right?
Yeah.
Unless, I think what you need to do is have the friend there.
Right.
So you can see they're not on the phone.
The lifeline returned in 2020 with all friends being monitored by a member of the show's production team to prevent cheating. I just imagine like some guy in a suit standing in the corner of your bedroom watching you during the show.
And when the show's over, he doesn't leave. And you're like, well, the show's over. You can go now. You don't have to watch me. And the guy's like, no, I've been hired to watch you for the rest of the night. And
just because the show's over, I still think you're capable of cheating. So I'm still going to watch you. You got anything to eat? Yep. And
all right.
I think I remember watching it live. If I'm not mistaken, the very first person to get all the way to $1 million, it was like some young guy, and he had lifelines remaining, including phoning a friend, and he called his dad and said, "Hey, Dad, I know the answer, but I'm about to win Who Wants to Be a Millionaire." And the dad was like laughing and happy. And then he did it.
That's cool. That's cool. Yep. Fucking nerd, but that's cool.
Nerd
alert. But that is really cool that he used his lifeline to do that.
What if he just like called Taco Bell and was like, "Hey, I'm about to wrap up. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm super hungry. Can I get 2 cheesy gorditas and a chalupa, please?" All right, thanks.
No, he's about to win $1 million. Order me 1,000 chalupas, 1,000 cheesy gorditas,
1,000 didgeridoos.
Oh, I had a guess on the tip of my tongue, and now I just lost it.
Well, put it on the tip of your dick, and maybe it'll come back to your mind.
That's the key. The dating game or the newlywed game.
The newlywed game is a game I grew up. I remember watching that on daytime TV with my dad when I was a kid because my dad retired when I was the age of 6. And I loved that show for whatever reason.
I liked it too.
It's a funny premise.
Yeah. Is it on here?
Didn't crack it. Neither did the dating game.
The movie about the dating game killer on Netflix. What's it called? Woman of the Hour, I believe. Highly recommended. I really enjoyed it.
Is it true crime?
So, Yeah, there was a guy on the dating game, like the real dating game, and I believe he even won the episode he was on, and he turned out to be a serial killer. He was in the midst of his serial killing.
Oh my
when he was
God.
on the show. Yeah.
So I will say that 2 of the shows left I recognize easily. 3 of them have been on since we have been adults, but 2 of them are very old, and I don't think you'd ever have heard of them.
I don't think this is on here, but The Weakest Link?
Nope. You're the weakest link. Goodbye. You want a hint?
Yeah.
I always think of this game show when I think of Whoopi Goldberg.
That does not help me.
Because she was on it in the 90s for a long time as one of the celebrities.
Hollywood Squares?
Hollywood Squares.
I never got into that one.
I didn't either. I remember watching it sometimes, but it wasn't my favorite.
I'll put that at 10.
7. Comes in at number 7 with 5100. Hollywood Squares is a game show in which 2 contestants compete in a game of tic-tac-toe to win cash and prizes. It debuted in October of 1966, running off and on until 1979. It's had multiple iterations. And
multiple titerations, more like it.
Currently, it's not running, but it is about to start airing again in January of 2025, with Drew Barrymore serving as the consistent center square and Nate Burleson as the show's host.
Nate who listen?
Burleson? Now, it is a legitimate game show where people have to ask celebrities trivia questions, and when the celebrity answers, you have to say whether that is the correct answer or not. And if you make the right guess whether it was accurate or not, then you get the square. And you're trying to play tic-tac-toe. However, one of the iconic pieces of the show is before any celebrity will give you an answer, they give you a gag answer. They try to be funny. So a lot of times it's, charismatic celebrities or comedians do really well.
Or Whoopi Goldberg.
Gilbert Gottfried was on there a lot in the 90s. And, he was a comedian, and there are a lot of YouTube clips about him being funny on Hollywood Squares. I didn't know this, but a lot of the zingers and joke answers that celebrities provided, they would meet in a room before the show, and the producers would give them ideas for joke answers, even though they didn't know the actual trivia questions, so they couldn't think about the answer ahead of time.
Yeah, it's something they collaborated on, and even before they knew the question, they had a zinger locked and loaded.
Yeah, so it's a giant 3x3 tic-tac-toe board, and celebrities were sitting up there at tables and answering trivia questions and having a good old time.
I've seen the visual of it, but I don't think I've seen even a minute of an episode.
How did you get my Whoopi Goldberg association then?
I don't know. I don't know. It just came to me.
Came to you in a dream.
Just like you came on me.
Wow. So let's recap the list.
Do you hear my dogs, by the way, in the background? They're playing. So listeners, if you hear a bunch of whining and stuff in the background, it's my dogs.
No, I think that's Nick being physically abusive to his pets.
That's Whoopi Goldberg, actually.
Trying to make some more zingers on Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
Let's recap the list. Coming in at number 11, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? 10, You Have Not Guessed. 9, Truth or Consequences. 8, We Haven't Guessed. 7, Hollywood Squares. 6, Family Feud. 5 and 4 are Yet a Mystery. 3, Wheel of Fortune. 2, The Price is Right. And 1, What is Jeopardy?
I need you to redo the whole list, but in the form of a question on all of them, not just Jeopardy. Please.
Got it. My hint is for number 4. It's still on air. And somebody else from Whose Line Is It Anyway is the current host.
Ryan Stiles?
Not Ryan Stiles, nope.
Wayne Brady. Wayne Brady is a host of something. What is he the host of?
Wayne Brady.
Damn, what is it? Is it America's Funniest Home Videos?
Nope. You actually said it earlier as you were on your way to guess Deal or No Deal.
Let's Make a Deal?
Let's Make a Deal.
I didn't even know that was the name of it.
6,700 episodes. Nearly 7,000. It's a game show first airing in 1963, and it has since then been produced and syndicated in many countries throughout the world. It was created originally by Stefan Hattos and Monty Hall, the latter serving as its original host for nearly 30 years. The format of Let's Make a Deal involves members of the studio audience referred to as quote-unquote traders making deals with the host. In most cases, a participant will be offered something of value and then given a choice of whether to keep it or exchange it for a different mystery item. However, they don't know what item they're exchanging for. The defining game mechanism is that the other item is hidden from the trader until the choice is made. The trader doesn't know if they're getting something of better value or something referred to as a zonk, an item purposely chosen to be of little or no value, like a goat or a llama.
Is it really called a zonk?
Yes.
And they give away a goat?
I don't know what they actually get, but they're useless things like a toothbrush or something.
Oh, toothbrush is useless. Yeah, no one ever needs that.
You don't need to go on a game show to win a toothbrush versus like a car.
Really, you don't think a homeless person that stumbled upon the game show and was a contestant, he couldn't use a toothbrush?
So eventually, when you
on your high horse with you just think toothbrushes grow on trees. Okay. Please, go on.
When you are eventually tired of Wayne Brady emotionally abusing you, you decide to not make a deal. And when you do that, you get to walk away with whatever the current prize is that you decided not to trade in.
Which might be a toothbrush.
The current edition of the show aired on CBS in 2009, and Wayne Brady has been the host since.
I can't think of Wayne Brady anymore without thinking about him on Chappelle's show. When he's like,
Yep.
Yeah.
If you've not seen the Wayne Brady Chappelle skit, and if you are a fan of Wayne Brady at all, you should go YouTube it right now. It's worth it. Now, the Monty Hall problem is something that I would talk about as a math teacher. It's also known as the Monty Hall paradox. It's a famous question in probability theory presented as a hypothetical game on the game show Let's Make a Deal. It was made famous, and it's called Monty Hall because Monty Hall was one of the originators of this idea, and he was the host of the show for 30 years. Nick, are you familiar with the Monty Hall problem?
Of course, but just in case the listeners don't know, why don't you explain it for them?
Do you really? You really know it?
No, fucking don't
know.
Okay.
I'll say you have 3 doors. There's a car behind one of the 3 doors, and the other 2 doors include a goat, a zonk. So you would pick a door A, B, or C. So go ahead and just select. You have no information, A, B, or C. Which one are you going to pick?
C.
Nick chooses door letter C. So let's say I open door B, and I say, look, there's a goat behind door B. Would you like to change your answer at this time?
No.
What do you think the correct form of action is, mathematically speaking?
The only math equation here that I see is like you had a 1 in 3 chance, and now you have a 1 in 2 chance.
Okay, you're close to the solution. Most people will think they have a 50-50 chance of winning. So it doesn't matter whether I switch or not. The thing that makes it counterintuitive and a really interesting problem is mathematically you should always switch. Because the host will never open a door that includes the car. They're always going to reveal a goat and eliminate a zonk choice. When you made your original guess of the door being letter C, you had a 1/3 chance of being right. So that means you had a 2/3 chance of being wrong. So 66% of the time, if you switch from your first guess to your second, you'll win the prize. It seems crazy. I promise.
That's a bunch of horseshit.
It's nuts. It's a really interesting problem, but it makes sense, and it's been featured a lot.
No, it doesn't. It does not make sense.
You had a 1/3 chance of being right. So that means you had a 2/3 chance of being wrong with your first guess. The probabilities don't change just because some new information has been revealed, because you had made your guess before you got the new intel.
I refuse to accept it.
Well, there you go. There's the Monty Hall problem. It's a brain teaser.
Call me Republican. I refuse to accept your alternative facts.
And we can think, let's make a deal for that brain teaser that now probability students all across the world have to think about.
Did you really teach that in your 7th grade math class?
Yeah, I taught both middle school and high school earlier in life. I taught math, and in the probability section, we'd always talk about the Monty Hall problem. And it was a fun one because students are just so incredulous. They can't believe it. It's 50-50, but it's not.
I don't accept it. Okay. Let's make a deal. I'm ready to make a deal on the remaining 3. You don't think I'll know them?
One of them is currently being hosted by Michael Strahan.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll recognize it when you say it, but it's not coming to me.
This is a show that's currently airing, and I had never heard of it. I'd never seen anything about it. I didn't know Michael Strahan was hosting it. I had no clue.
Yeah, I don't know it.
It's called The Pyramid. But with inflation over time, it started as the $10,000 pyramid. So this is like our Who Wants to Be a Millionaire joke. Now the show's called the $100,000 pyramid, hosted by Michael Strahan. It was developed by Bob Stewart, and it first aired in March of 1973.
Number 8.
Number 8 is correct. 4,500 episodes.
It's actually called now the $100,000 pyramid?
Yeah, not very catchy. It's called the $100,000 pyramid.
Well, and also, like, on this same list, we have people giving away $1 million, and you're giving away 100,000. Like, come on.
Well, I think it's a little easier to get the 100,000. So here's how it works: a celebrity is paired with a common peasant, and the two of them have to work together as a team. It's essentially catchphrase. So one person has their back turned to the pyramid of clues, and the other person is feeding them clues. They can say anything but the word, and you can't say rhymes with. So it's a word association game. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you can get 6 catchphrase answers done in 1 minute's time, you win $100,000 as a pair. That's it. That's the setup.
Okay.
And the pairs take turns giving the clues, and you either make it or you don't.
That doesn't sound interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard. I watched a TikTok clip of people who did it in like 32 seconds, and it was pretty impressive.
So would you watch it, though, now that you've seen a clip of it?
No.
Okay.
I still would go for Family Feud or Wheel of Fortune if I had an hour to burn and wanted to watch some game shows.
Me too. And Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I used to enjoy that, too, so I'd watch that. But I won't.
Epic, tense music.
Yes, that brings me back. And Regis was great too.
I want that light
man.
effect and the music to happen anytime I suspect that my wife and I are about to get into a disagreement.
I thought you were going to say something else you and your wife were going to do. I'm glad you landed on disagreement. So I just need 10 and 5. Are
10
either
and
of these
5.
still airing?
No, these are both incredibly old, like black and white, super grainy.
Okay, so why don't you give it to me then?
I never heard
of
either of these. So let's start with number 10. It's called What's My Line? You ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
2,200 episodes. It's a panel game show that originally ran in the United States between 1950 and 1967 on CBS. The game includes 4 celebrities who sit on a panel, and they can only ask a contestant yes or no questions in order to eventually guess their occupation. The majority of the contestants were from the general public, but every now and then there's a celebrity mystery guest. And in that case, you're not trying to guess the person's profession, but you're trying to guess who they are. And if it was the mystery guest, because it's old school, they just came out and put 4 blindfolds on each of the celebrities. And I will say, I watched a clip of this, and I
like the premise.
It was fun. They, of course, are going to pick celebrities with fun personalities. Betty White was on there, and she was like 20 years old at the time.
Oh, that's so weird.
And they were just like, the answer for the guy, he made maternity clothing. And so they kept asking him yes or no questions. And so the celebrities kept thinking that he made bras. And so there was like so many questions where they're trying not to say the word boobs because it's like 1950.
Yes.
But like, and so the whole audience is like cackling with laughter, and it was a pretty funny setup. And yeah, I thought it's a simple concept, but it's fun because like as you at home, you know the answer from the start, and as the contestants like struggling to answer yes or no questions, it gets funny.
Yeah, that does sound neat, and I wouldn't mind seeing a black and white game show with a young Betty White on it as well.
You should YouTube it. What's My Line?
But it's interesting too to think about 1950s, like the things they could and couldn't say on TV, or the things that everyone knew what we were talking about, but you still just can't say that word.
Right. One of the guys was like, "Would the product show off Mrs. Clark's natural gifts?" I think it's like how he phrased it, and everybody was laughing. It's funny.
And now on TV, and today you can cut off people's heads and like fuck it on with no, no censoring of any kind.
Yep. So then number 5 is a game show called Concentration, coming in at 5,600 episodes. It's based on the child's memory game of the same name. It was created by Jack Barry and Dan Enright. Contestants went one-on-one versus each other, and they tried to match prizes that were hidden behind spaces on a game board. As they did match 2 different squares across a game board, it would slowly reveal portions of a rebus puzzle underneath for contestants to solve.
A Regis puzzle? He's in this show too?
A rebus, R-E-B-U-S, is a riddle or puzzle made up of letters, pictures, and symbols whose names sound like the symbols and words of a phrase. So, for example, a cow jumped over the moon. You might see a picture of a cow over a picture of a moon, and you have to guess the phrase. The cow jumped over the moon.
Yeah, okay.
That's a rebus. So there's a rebus hidden behind a game board, and the game board squares are revealed when the contestants remember which one matches which. Now, each of those squares that they're trying to match are prizes. Car, new TV, etc. And if you can remember which square has the TV and it matches, then you end up winning a TV. And so the person who ends up guessing the rebus puzzle underneath first wins all of the prizes that they were able to match along the way.
That's a cute idea.
Yeah, it was. I watched it.
I wonder why
it was
some
fun.
of these shows, like this one or What's My Line, which was the last one we talked about, I wonder why they don't kind of make a comeback. Some of these shows like Family Feud are doing really well right now.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. Because you're simultaneously trying to remember where all the matched squares are, and you're trying to figure out this rebus puzzle that it's a slowly evolving image that you're getting pieces of.
Right. And if you get the rebus puzzle wrong, then Regis Philbin pops out, calls you an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you concentrate on recapping the list for me?
I will. I certainly will.
Don't do it for me. Do it for the listeners.
I would never do anything for you. This is for each and every one of our special listeners.
Thank you.
Don't you dare for a second think I've done anything for you in the years I've been coming on this show.
Noted. Damn. Calm down. Don't cry.
Put that in your fucking corncob pipe and smoke it. You bitch.
You gonna review the shit or not?
No.
God.
11. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I'm not asking you a question. That's the show. 2,000 episodes. 10. What's My Line? 9. Truth or Consequences? 8. Pyramid. 7. Hollywood Squares. 6. Family Feud. 5. Concentration. 4. Let's Make a Deal. 3. Wheel of Fortune. 2. The Price is Right. And number 1, What is Jeopardy? At 9,900 episodes and still running every weekday.
That's too many episodes.
If you need something to binge, folks, and you got a lot of time on your hands, cue up Jeopardy. Get to watching.
The good thing about shows like Jeopardy or any of these shows is they're good like background shows. Something to have on while you're doing something, while you're writing a paper or while you're making dinner. Like just it's mindless TV. That's what I like about.
I don't know that Ken Jennings
but...
would appreciate you calling his super hard trivia questions mindless and background music.
Okay. Well, yeah, let me take it all back because I really care what Ken Jennings thinks about what I say.
Well, I have to agree with you. That's the way I treat Tenish Pod. Never once have I been listening and actually paying attention. It's usually while I'm like flushing toilets and...
Flushing toilets, okay. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Well, look, I don't care what Buster says, but I do care what you say, listener. I'd love to know what your favorite game show is. If you're listening to me on Spotify, scroll down just a tad from the now playing on Spotify, and you'll see a comment section. You can leave a comment right there on the Spotify app, and you can also take a poll I'll have for you there. If you're not on Spotify, you can also let me know on social media at TennisPod. Buster, I feel like I've been on a game show fighting for my life to win the prize, which is to finally end this episode. So thank you.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Goodbye.